Welcome back for another video. So Champions League Fantasy is about to launch for the 23-24 season. The Matchday 1 deadline's on Tuesday, so as something a bit different, I've built a team we're going to play this season. We've got a mini league as well, so if you'd like to join that, an invite's in the description. If you've never played before, there are some similarities and differences to FPL. You still pick a team of 15 players. There's 13 match days in total, which are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. 100 million budget to spend, which increases to 105 mil from the round of 16 onwards. This is needed because the weaker teams generally get knocked out and you have to replace them with teams that are still in the competition, generally stronger teams. The deadline is the first kickoff of the first match day, so you get the full lineups, which is something I wish FPL had. This season there's a few notable early kickoffs which could be useful. Matchday 1, Leipzig away to Young Boys. In Matchday 3, Bayern got the first kickoff away to Galatasaray. Matchday 4, Barca first kickoff away to Shakhtar. And in Matchday 6, Sevilla away to Lens and Arsenal away to PSV. The biggest difference in Champions League Fantasy is you can change your captain and make substitutions between Tuesday and Wednesday games. This is crucial if someone blanks for you. Therefore, always have a Tuesday and a Wednesday goalkeeper rotation, and ideally some good rotation on captaincy. And since you can change captain and make substitution, it makes Tuesday funner for taking punts if you're that kind of manager. There's also the Limitless chip, which is unlimited funds for one match day, really fun chip. If you'd like to join the Focal Discord, there's a channel dedicated to Champions League Fantasy chat as well, link below to join. So let's get into the team, and in goal I've got Blazic from Leipzig. Besides Man City, they've got a really good group this season. These are all 8 groups for the Champions League this season, and they're up against Young Boys first match day. Not expecting much in the games against Man City, but obviously can substitute out if the clean sheets lost. This is a fixture ticker from FPL Fraser, which has the group stages covered, and you can see that they should progress second in their groups to City really. The left ticker is overall across all teams, and the right ticker is organised into the groups. So Man City are top overall, followed by Bayern, Arsenal, Real Madrid, Napoli, Inter, and then Barcelona. The back three is Koundé, Ake, and Carvajal. At least in Champions League Fantasy, if Pep Roulette strikes, then Ake can be subbed off. One of the best teams in European football defensively. He made 8 out of a possible 13 appearances last season in the Champions League, as City obviously went on to win the whole thing. He's the cheapest of the Man City defenders. Diaz, Stone, Vardy and Walker are all 5.5 mil. And knowing Pep, there's nothing to suggest that they're likely to start in the Champions League than Ake, who is 1 mil cheaper. Ruben Diaz probably the most nailed of all of them. He was actually the 3rd top scoring player in the game last season, after Vinicius and Bastoni. Real Madrid are home to Union Berlin, and Barcelona are home to Antwerp Matchday 1. Pulling up the clean sheet odds here, this back 3 is the top 3 in the clean sheet odds, which is why I've backed them. City given a 56% chance, Real Madrid and Barca with a 48% chance of a clean sheet. In La Liga last season, Barcelona conceded just 20 goals in 38 games. Onto the midfield, which is Saka, Kimmich, Ivanyasek and Bellingham. So Ivanyasek's an awesome enabler I just came across, only 4.5 mil and he's a left winger. This season he's played 9 games in all competitions and he's got 6 goals and 3 assists. He plays a Matchday 1 as well, so if he does blank against Celtic, he can be subbed off. In one of the Champions League qualifiers against FC Astana, he bagged a hat-trick. I did have Olmo in his spot, but I think he's currently injured, so I've taken him out. Only a couple of Premier League players in the team here, but Saka is one of them, home to PSV first match day. Probably not great value for 9.5 mil at all, but as an Arsenal fan I had to chuck at least one Arsenal player in there. Finally back in the Champions League, I'm going to try to go to a few games if possible this season. Should be on penalties as well. There is a slight concern that Arteta might give Nelson a game in right wing, but he tends to use Saka as much as possible, and he's going to want to start strong in the Champions League. Trossard could be a great punt given that Martinelli went off injured last match, he's 7.5 mil. Although Kimmich is a defensive mid, he has the occasional attacking return in him, but more importantly, ball recoveries are an important aspect of scoring in Champions League fantasy. It's 1 point per 3 balls recovered. Bayern Munich are home to Man United on Wednesday, so no chance to substitute first match day. We'll talk more on Man United in a sec. And lastly Bellingham, who's an absolute beast and only 7.5 mil. Surely they got his price completely wrong here. In his first 5 La Liga games, he scored 5 goals and 1 assist. He scored 4 in the Champions League last season I think, so he seems near on essential. He's 74% ownership currently, which I believe is joint top of a certain forward you could probably guess. One of the most stacked forward lines ever is Lewandowski, Kane and Haaland front 3. So Haaland and Bellingham, the joint most owned players in the game, both on 74% ownership. Haaland has to be near on essential as well. 7 goals in 5 league games this season. Last season 12 goals in 11 Champions League games, 36 in 35 Premier League games, locked in captain for the Tuesday games. Perhaps has even less competition this season, as it looks like Alvarez is going to be required to play the De Bruyne role more, with the Belgian out for another 3 or so months. It's nice to have Kane back in the fantasy team. 10 mil, pretty generous price tag, and he started well at Bayern, which I'm really happy about. He's played 4 league games and he's got 4 goals, 1 assist so far. Bayern Munich have found their proper number 9 to replace Lewandowski here. Last season was his best ever season for goals, scoring 30 times in the league. So Man United are in complete disarray at the moment. Bad results, injuries, drama off the pitch. Looks a great game on paper for Bayern. On the bench I've got Sommer, Darmian, Kim and Thuram. Darmian's a slight concern as Inter have signed Pavard, who could play ahead of him in right back, but I want some Inter defensive coverage, hence the double up with Sommer. Amazingly, Thuram's been classified as midfielder and priced at only 6.5 mil, which seems like a steal. He's been playing out of position, he's played every match as a centre forward this season, and he's got 2 goals and 3 assists in 4 Serie A games. Not only an out of position pick, but also playing as a forward alongside Lautaro Martinez, who's 9 mil. He's also the cheapest starting midfielder at Inter, who, let's not forget, were finalists last season. Thuram is second in the league for non-penalty expected goals and surprisingly only 8% owned. So that's how the team looks for Matchday 1. I may or may not do more Champions League fantasy content depending on how much interest this one gets, but I wanted to give it a try. Let me know if you'd like to see more. And hit subscribe if you enjoyed the video. See you soon for the next one.